Well, hello there. Once again, this is Pastor J.D. Hatfield of the Riverside Christian Fellowship in Hernando, Florida. As always, you can find us on the web at voiceofvision.org. Now, what would you think if I told you that what you need is more fear in your life? What if I said that the more fear you have, the happier, healthier, and holier you'd be? What if I said that the remedy to anxiousness is trembling? I'm sure you'd probably say that I was wrong and I'm not being very helpful. You might talk about the many places in the Bible that say, do not fear. And yes, the Bible does talk a lot about an unhealthy kind of fear and of trembling as in fearing for your life. You're not supposed to yield to the wrong kind of fear. But the Bible also says a lot about the right kind of fear and a right sense of trembling. That's a healthy fear, and that's the fear of God. And a right sense of the fear of God leads to a sense of trembling before God. And it's the beginning of wisdom. It's the antidote for anxiety. It's a bulwark against rampant sin and the fuel for godly humility, happiness, and holiness. Solomon, at the end of his life, after trying everything under the sun to be satisfied, said in Ecclesiastes 12:13, "Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." That's wisdom. Fear and trembling before God is your first and greatest need. Christian, there's the wrong kind of fear of God, the wrong kind of the fear of the Lord that's in relation to your sin. And this is the sort of fear of God that the devil wants you to have, as if God is a cruel taskmaster, as if God is out to get you for everything you do, say, or think, like you're about to face his wrath at any moment and can be severely punished, as if you're Adam and Eve hiding in the Garden of Eden after they ate the forbidden fruit. You see, this is the sort of fear that drives you away from God, and it's not the kind of fear that God wants you to have. He wants the fear of him to drive you towards him. So it is the right kind of fear of God. How does it help you? How do you develop it? Well, for the Christian, the fear of God isn't a sense of a panic, terror, or dread. Most often you'll hear Christians describe the fear of God as a reverential awe, and that's good. But the phrase reverential awe is not really enough to fully describe what the fear of God really is. And it might not help you understand how this is meant to play out in your life. So let me illustrate it for you. Imagine that you're walking into a huge building with a very, very high ceiling. And then you see me or a loved one, someone you know that's on your side. It's not going to be against you no matter what. And let's say it's me, and you see me, and I'm 50 feet tall. Now, I only stand about 5 foot 2 inches tall. So imagine me 10 times that size. Now, the first time you see me that way, you would tremble. It'd be unlike anything you've experienced before. No one is that tall. No one's that big, that awesome. You would have a healthy fear. But you wouldn't be afraid that I was going to purposefully hurt you. You love me. We're loved ones. But nevertheless, you'd be careful and considerate and childlike. You'd be humbled. You would have a reverential awe. And how would this change your life? Well, you'd trust that I could protect you. You'd trust that I could see much more than you could see. You would trust that I could do whatever it takes to help you overcome the fears in your life. You'd stop depending on lesser things to keep you safe. You'd stop looking to others for your fulfillment. You'd stop thinking you needed to prove yourself. With me on your side, you would have safety, satisfaction, and rest. You'd certainly respect me. You'd do what I say. And if you had done me wrong, you'd ask me to forgive you. You would draw near to me. You would enjoy the awesomeness of me. You'd love knowing me in a wonderful, amazed way. Now, of course, that's not a reality. I could never fulfill all these things for myself, let alone anyone else. But God is, and can, and does, and will. Now, that's a frightening experience in a sense, but now imagine that God has summoned you to his court, and you know that he's about to reward you. But as you enter the throne, you see God, and he's 500 feet tall on the throne. And of course, that's nowhere near the reality of how majestic and powerful God really is. But it might help you have a sense of proper fear and trembling before God. There you are. And he's about to reward you, but you're standing before him. That may help you have a sense of proper fear and trembling before God. You know, you can develop a sanctified imagination if you're just going to remember yourself as this small being living before the huge, beautiful, majestic, glorious throne of God. All your life in front of him, and there he is. A proper fear. And so it is kind of scary, but in a starstruck kind of way. It's adoration that's trembling with excitement. You're humbled, and so you find opportunity instead of opposition at the throne of God. That's the right kind of fear of God. That's what you find in Jeremiah 32:40. It says, I will make with them an everlasting covenant, that I will not turn away from doing good to them. And I will put the fear of me in their hearts, that they may not turn from me. The fear of God causes you to turn to him, not from him. Jeremiah chapters 31 through 33 picture the new covenant. And the point is that when you are saved, God puts a healthy fear into your heart. The question is, what are you doing with it? Philippians 2:12 and 13 tells you what to do with it. It says to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. You're to live out what God has been giving you, what he has given to you. And you're to do this with fear and trembling. Why? Because it's God who's working in you. God wants you to enjoy him as you learn to love, trust, and obey him. God manifests himself to you so that he might manifest himself through you. Psalm 130 verse 4 says, but with you there's forgiveness, that you may be feared. The fear of the Lord is a good thing. God means to instill and inspire the healthiest thing in you for you. God forgives you so that you can experience a fear that conquers all other fears. Matthew 10:28, Jesus said, and do not fear those who can kill the body but can't kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. This is Jesus teaching in the context of persecution. Fearing God more means fearing life less. You know, there's a pandemic of fear in the world today. Fearing God is the answer. But people who don't know God don't fear God, not in the right way. Psalm 36:1 is quoted in Romans 3:18. It says, there is no fear of God before their eyes. People don't fear God because people don't know God. They can't see God rightly. But as Proverbs 2, verses 1 through 5 teaches, if you treasure the wisdom of the Bible, you'll develop a holy fear of God. And you'll learn to live wisely. As Proverbs 16:6 says, by the fear of the Lord, one turns away from evil. But now for those of you who may claim to fear God, but don't live like it, let me ask you a question. If you say that you fear God, then why are you fighting against God? Why do you resist his will? Well, here again is your answer. The more you fear God, the less you'll resist God. Think about that. You need to think about this in the light of your cherished sin. God's grace isn't supposed to inspire you to wonder how much sin you can get away with, but how much sin you can get away from. God is with you. Stop struggling against him. Describing Jesus, Isaiah 11:2 and 3 says, the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. As a human being living on earth, Jesus' greatest satisfaction was in God. The fear of God is what makes you like Jesus. The fear of God needs to be the lens through which you see everything else. The issue for many people, many Christians, is that they see God through the lens of their circumstances instead of seeing their circumstances through the lens of God. But if you keep the fear, unlike unsaved people, saved people, if you keep the fear of God before your eyes, keep that imagination, the fear of God, everything else will be seen in its proper proportion. If your fear of God is big, your fear of everything else will be small. So there you have it. If your fear of God is big, your fear of everything else will be small. Until next time, we'll see you here, there, or in the air. God bless you.